Hello, I hope that this video finds you healthy and happy and confident in God's promises. We've got a great quarantine and confident lesson from the Old Testament today, dealing with the prophet Elijah. Elijah was in a pretty dark place, and God comes to him and gives him the answers, not that he was looking for, but the answers that he needed. So I think this is an important lesson. To be honest, I would say a lot of us, to varying degrees these last few weeks, have probably found ourselves in kind of a dark place, just with the uncertainty about when things are going to return to normal, just maybe getting on each other's nerves a little bit in the close confines, worries about our health, lots of other things like that, worries about finances. So it would be certainly understandable if we were feeling a little depressed. And I think that's something Christians can be really honest about, is that sometimes we get depressed. And how does God help us work through that? This is a good lesson for that. For the introduction, the question that I have on the materials, if you're looking at them on the Facebook comments or in the YouTube video, that should be in the section below, I asked, describe a time when you were sad or disappointed about something and someone helped you just by helping you see things from a different perspective. My example there is a little bit ridiculous. So I have a birthday in August. My birthday is August 27th. I have a younger sister whose birthday is August 1st. As you can see by the calendar here, August 1st comes before August 27th, like every year. So there was one time when I was turning 5, I believe, and my younger sister was turning 3. So it was probably August 1st, let's say 1989. And my mom came and woke me up and told me that it was time to come down and celebrate my sister's birthday. My sister's there on the right, I'm on the left. And I thought it was a joke because I thought, well, I'm older, my birthday should come first. And I got very, very, very upset. And I thought they were playing a joke on me. And I was very annoyed. And I refused to come down for a long time until my mom came up and sat me down and explained, no, it was not a joke. And no, they weren't trying to be mean. And this is how the month of August works. And it took me a long time to understand it, but when I did, I was able to come down and enjoy a nice birthday for my sister. So my sadness was relieved just by understanding what was actually happening. That's similar to what happens to Elijah in our section. He's very sad. He's so sad that he tells God at one point that maybe God should just end his life and be done with it because there's nothing good that can be done left in this world. And God is able to give Elijah a little perspective and help him understand you don't know everything you think you know, Elijah, and there's still lots of good things to be done. So let's talk about what happened to Elijah. If you remember, we did a video a little bit ago that went through Elijah and the prophets of Baal. And there was this big showdown on Mount Carmel. It was Elijah versus these 450 prophets of this false god Baal. God sent down fire, as you see in the picture here, and Elijah was ecstatic. He thought, this is it. Israel had been falling away from the true God for so long. He thought, this is the turning point. All these people are going to want to become believers in God, and everything is going to go so well from here. That's not what happened. Instead, King Ahab and his wife, Queen Jezebel, kind of put out a kill order on Elijah. And so instead of celebrating this great victory for God and for his people, Elijah found himself running. And he runs for quite a while. He goes maybe 75 miles and drops off his servant, and then goes for maybe another 20 miles. And we're told that he kind of lies down on the ground with his back up against this broom tree, and he tells God, this is it. This is no good. I've done what you've asked me to do, and I don't think anything should continue on here. I think maybe you should end my life. And he goes to sleep. And you just think sometimes when you are exhausted, you get a picture of a doctor here that's just exhausted. You think about those emergency workers right now who are working so hard, working around the clock with the threat of catching the virus, and very thankful for all of them. So when you're exhausted, everything seems more terrible than it actually is. And that's Elijah here. Elijah just so overwhelmed with his disappointment and physical exertion from all this travel, he just thinks, I'm done. He's hit rock bottom in his mind, and I don't want to be alive anymore, which is sort of an intense thing for us to hear as a Bible reader, but kind of a really good thing for us to hear too, because Elijah is one of the greatest prophets in the Old Testament. And then he still struggles with something like this. That makes us feel a little more comfortable in a weird way because we struggle with these things too. So to know that these guys are human beings and God was able to help them means that God can help us too. So this is such a great section. What God does is the angel of the Lord, which is God, second person of the Trinity, he wakes Elijah up and he makes him bread and water and he gives him a meal. This is such a wonderful thing to read, that God cares about these small things too. God cares about these, huge things that are going on in the world, but he also knows that Elijah should eat. So Elijah, get up, eat a meal, you'll feel better. Elijah eats a meal, goes back to sleep. God wakes him up a second time, same thing happens. Eat a meal, and now he can keep traveling. And Elijah does travel for a long time. He travels 40 days and 40 nights and ends up at Mount Horeb, which we know is Mount Sinai, where Moses received the Ten Commandments from God. But he ends up going, all told, about 300 miles, which is just about the distance between Cincinnati and Chicago. So if you can imagine that, making that trip over, what is this? I guess a little over 40 days. He makes a super long trip and ends up in a cave. And God comes to him and says, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And the fact that God knows what Elijah's doing here means there's a little bit of thought behind this. He's saying, "Elijah, this isn't where you're supposed to be. Why are you here? I have not sent you here." And Elijah again says, I feel so alone. I've done everything you've asked me to do as prophet, and I'm the last person left. I'm the last believer that you have. And everything is bad, God, and I don't know what to do. I just feel like I'm at the end. And so God does this great thing. He comes in the form of a great wind, and then he comes in the form of an earthquake, and then he comes in the form of a fire. And each of these times we're told God is not really in those things. It says, after the fire came a gentle whisper, if you remember the King James Version, a still small voice. And that's what draws Elijah out of the cave. And God tells Elijah, "Look, you're not the last one left. I have reserved 7,000 true believers in Israel. There's all these people left." And he puts Elijah to work and says, "Go anoint the new king who's going to take down Ahab and stop Baal worship. Go anoint the next prophet. You're going to have Elisha. There's going to be help on the way for you to do this important work as prophet." So God comes to him in this whisper, not in these big powerful displays. And we talked about that in the Elijah and the Prophets of Baal video. Why doesn't God just make some big powerful display in our world today and then everyone would believe in him? Well, he did that here, and it worked for about 20 minutes, and then nobody really wanted to believe in him anymore. What makes God's work powerful today is his word. He still comes in that word to us today. When we open a Bible, especially in strange times like this, we remember, oh yeah, God is good. God is in control. God loves me. God sent his son to die for me. Everything is going to be just fine as long as God is who he says he is, and God is going to do what he says he's going to do. I can't emphasize that enough, that these are the times, especially when you need to open up a Bible or sit down with your family and read what God has to say, because God makes such powerful promises, and they always mean something, but they mean so much more when we're surrounded by uncertainty. That still small voice is here for us today. As far as God's promise that Elijah wasn't alone, I think that's important for us to remember too. One of the hardest things about going through this is that we can't be with our church family all together. We're scattered around. This is a great picture of a baptism from a while ago, and you see these church members together. You see them gathered around. Two baptisms took place that day in that service. We miss this. We want to be together again, and God willing, that will happen again soon. But even though we feel maybe alone and scattered, we're really not. We share a faith that transcends physical distance. Even though we're scattered around Cincinnati or Batesville, other places like that, we still share a faith, and God is still with us all together. So just to kind of wrap up this lesson, one of the key points here is sometimes we think things all look terrible and nothing's good and everything's falling apart, and God just has to say, hold on, you don't have the full picture. I promise you everything's going to be okay. I've used this picture before, but I think it's a really helpful one. This is a picture of James Cameron directing Titanic. And if you've seen that movie Titanic, it's a little bit older now. But in this last scene where the ship is sinking, it's just chaos. You know, the ship is cracking apart, and there's people in the water and everything. And it's just like it's kind of terrifying to watch it. But behind the scenes picture like this shows us, no, they were in a tank. Everything was completely under control. That's life as a Christian right now. Everything feels so chaotic and uncertain, but you realize, oh yeah, God's the director. God is in control. None of this is out of his ability to take care of us. So we still hear that still small voice, and it gives us confidence moving forward. Just to put this out there, this is my email address. If you are going through a really dark time right now, and you could use someone to talk to, both of us pastors would be more than happy to listen to you. So you can send me an email or send Pastor Buster an email. We'll set up a time to talk because, like you, we're human beings. We know that this is a difficult thing to work through, especially when there's so much uncertainty. But we do have a great God who loves us and who's in control, and we'd love to share that with you. Okay, God's blessing to you. Take care.